Hi guys, I'm Shmi, hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me today at Bugatti's secret workshop to take a first look at the brand new Bugatti Bolide. Just look at this extraordinary thing, based around their familiar and iconic 8-litre quad-turbo W16, but the ultimate expression of track-focused driving. Just wait until you hear all of the numbers behind this car. It offers more than 1 horsepower per kilo in full high downforce specification. It offers 2.5 tons of downforce, but just look at it. Today we're going to go through all of the ins and outs, go through the Bolide in detail, including an opportunity for me to take a seat on board, and then we're going to be starting it up, which I believe is going to sound thunderous. Join me then for a full tour of the new Bugatti Bolide. It's actually quite hard to know where to begin with this car. There are so many details, and I've got a very short opportunity now to take you on a tour around it, to go through as much as possible. I've just been trying to learn from the ground up everything about it, but this is very much inspired by Bugatti's history. It goes back, for example, to the Type 35, the most successful race-winning car of all time. Recently, we've had the launch of the Chiron and various derivatives, including most recently the Chiron Pur Sport, but this is really taking that down to basics, taking out the engine and the gearbox and building back up the ultimate track-only race car. A car that is built to basically be on the level of Formula 1 or LMP1, for example. It is that level of extreme. You can see this with the design. Of course, the bodywork, the internals, they're all carbon fiber. Every bit of weight saving that they could possibly introduce has been used on this car. There's a lot of negative space. You can see all of the openings for airflow that flies around the teardrop cabin. Still very much a two-seater, and I will be climbing in just a moment. I can't believe that I'm actually saying that. But at the front, you've got the iconic horseshoe grille. In fact, the heaviest or least weight-saving area of the entire car is on the badge. It wears the same familiar badge to give it that iconic look at the front. But even this splitter is actually a wing. This can be adjusted through 3 different stages. You can see how it can be unbolted and changed. This is actually in the mid setting at the moment, in line with this fixed spoiler at the back, which can also be adjusted. It's attached to that central shark fin. Of course, all aero performance, keeping the car stable at high speed, because boy, does this car go quickly. Then at the back, you might recognize the style of the design back here. These X shapes, they actually link back to experimental aircraft, some inspirations that the designers have had with this, but also a design familiar that we've seen on the Pur Sport with these tail lights that are integrated into that shape, and the vertical exhaust in the center to again keep this all as streamlined as possible, get the air out of the car as quickly as it possibly can. Even back here, triple layer to the diffuser, running on 400mm wide slicks. You have the aero pieces around the outside, even with the turbine blades to get the air out of there as quickly as possible for the cooling. Everything about this is just extreme to the absolute max. The journey for the Bolide started and focuses all around this engine, the famous 8-litre quad-turbo W16, the famously immensely powerful engine as well from the likes of the Bugatti Chiron, but with the question, what if that was taken, the engine, gearbox and permanent all-wheel drive system, and put into the ultimate track car? Well, this is the result, and it's an actual full working machine. It's not just a show car that can only go 20 or 30 miles per hour. This is the real deal, and it's going to sound immense in a moment when we start it up. This is going to be thunderous. But the entire car is created for the ultimate in aerodynamics, the ultimate in shaving every bit of weight possible, and of course shrink wrapping the carbon fiber bodywork around that power plant. The rear mid-mounted quad-turbo 8-litre W16, originally developed for the Bugatti Veyron almost 2 decades ago, where it offered 1001 horsepower. That was then followed by the Veyron Supersport, which went up to 1200 horsepower, before being redeveloped a couple of years ago for the launch of the Chiron, where power went up to 1500 horsepower and torque of 1600 newton meters. That's the engine that then found its way into the Pur Sport, on which this is fundamentally modelled. The Pur Sport is Bugatti's most track-focused road car, but this takes it even further, and we can see it out undergoing some final testing at Paul Ricard, the circuit in the south of France, looking incredible in the camo. But wait until you hear some of the numbers behind the Bolide. The power output is 1850 horsepower, the torque 1850 newton meters, and the claimed dry weight
is a mere 1,240 kilos. That gives us a weight to power ratio of just 0.67, or the other way around, the power to weight of 1.5 to 1. The simulated performance and acceleration figures that therefore come with this are 0 to 100 kilometers per hour of 2.2 seconds, 0 to 200 is just 4.4, 0 to 300 is a crazy 7.4, 0 to 400 in only 12.1 seconds, and the full 0 to 500 kilometers per hour over 300 miles an hour in only 20.2 seconds. These numbers are bonkers, completely to match the car we're looking at.
Just to walk around and take in some more of the details, you've got this double layer to the rear wing, optimizing the aero. It's top mounted, which gives you the most usable underside. That's where the air is most effectively used. We've got things like the pneumatic jacks to lift the entire car up. Of course, race car, track car. You've got the quad tailpipes separated out in a similar design to that which we've seen in some of the other recent Bugatti models. The reversing light back here in the diffuser, and the multiple layers of this diffuser. Just take in all of those details. There's so much to it. Also visually, a large proportion of the bodywork is left in exposed carbon fibre, the gloss upper sections. This I think inherently gives more of a sporty look versus the more larger painted sections that you see on some of the regular road models. For example, if you step from the Chiron with about 10% of its body in carbon to the Chiron Pur Sport with about 30% of the body in carbon, then up to this, which is more like 70 or 80%. If we just walk around it though, there's so much to take in. Of course, race car, so you've got the fire and main switches out on the front. Obviously we've got plexiglass for the windows, a wiper in the centre. We'll get to the interior in just a moment. All of the openings, the louvres to allow airflow to escape. And I tell you, there's a really clever part of aero here. You can see how air is channeled either up and over there, or also directly through there, which is actually a tunnel that goes through the door itself between the inner layer and the outer layer to another radiator sitting just behind. Of course, here we've got the race fuel filler cap, but let me show you this very clever piece of aero work up here on the snorkel. Of course, air comes in through the front for the cooling of the engine, but you'll see these little circles on top. These are actually bubbles that inflate up to 5 millimeters above the surface, which helps smoothen out the air over the top to increase the aerodynamic efficiency of the rear deck, to disturb or reduce some of the disturbed air that you have over the top of it. Now, I think we need to take a look inside here. So press the button, open the door up. Carefully does this, of course, but this is thoroughbred race car. Just look inside this cabin. Room for two, but basically the lightest shell seats sitting right down inside the monocage, full carbon fiber tub, so you can see to FIA standards wrapping all the way around. You've got the pipe work up there for the airflow coming through the snorkel. The interior finished in the blue Alcantara, the French racing blue, but very much race car. Now you might be wondering about door mirrors, cameras. We'll see those in a moment. You've got one on each side, as well as one in the back of the shark fin to help you see backwards, all of which show through the traditional rear view mirror that you have in the center. But I'm going to take a step inside here in a moment. I just want to show you the airflow I was talking about here. It comes through, continues all the way through the door, and then goes into this lower section of the radiators back there, which is absolutely remarkable. Okay, it is time to climb in, stepping over the side sill. You do this by taking one step onto the seat itself before lowering down and further in. I'm going to do this very carefully because this is the only Bugatti Bolide in the world. We need to be exceptionally careful with it. Step in, slide on down, see if I can do this, holding the camera. Oh, nearly didn't, but just about made it in. And this seating position, I am basically, as you can probably see, pretty much straight on the ground, sitting bum almost below heels inside the carbon tub. Just look at this. And in fact, if I turn on the main, it will wake the car up, and I'll be able to show you the lights on the outside as well. But wow, of course the gearbox is here inside the central tunnel. You can see the camera system we have here. In fact, if I just wave out of the car, you can see how the camera is right outside there. But imagine being inside this. It's actually really quite hard to, I think, fully portray what the seating position is like. I'm quite hot here at the moment, but you can see that I'm basically lying down. I feel like having a rest almost while just chilling here. I am going to turn on the lights, so I want to show you those when we step out in a moment. make sure they are properly illuminated. But obviously on the steering wheel, you've got your radio controls, traction control, page of the display, ABS systems and settings and things that you can change just inside here. Wow, let me actually close the door. Be gentle with this. Of course, that drops down. And here I am, inside the race car. What is this view? Wow. Wow, could you imagine, with some of those numbers I've told you earlier, what it would be like driving in this? So open the door, we'll pull at that, push this back up, so be careful with it. It goes all the way over the hinge point to make getting in and out just a touch easier. I also actually want to hop out and show you some of the things we've got here. That was, of course, much more elegant to do without holding the camera, but we'll drop the door down for a second. So over here are some of the components, because so much of this car is made from 3D printed titanium. For example, this part is the rear wing mount, which I think weighs about 300 grams, almost next to nothing. This part goes into the suspension setup, which weighs 100 grams, so that's less than your mobile phone. In fact, you can see the lights illuminated now at the moment. This is just down in here. Yeah, you can see the part just there. This can hold the weight of 2 regular Chiron's dry weight. This can hold 3,700 kilos. You could literally hang a Chiron from this 100 gram part. That is the example of extremes that this car has actually gone to. We can also see the headlights now illuminated, those X lights. This is done to carry through the X theme that we're seeing all around the car, but also to be reminiscent of when the likes of the Type 35s would go racing, and they used to have their headlights taped up to ensure if they got broken, they wouldn't completely smash. So that is why you have this design. But you can see, looking around it, for example, you've got more X shapes with the body lines. In fact, this is almost like the C, a sportier version of the C that we've seen in the Chiron and then in the Devo, getting even narrower as the cars become more extreme. Then look at those tail lights. Look at that X shape you have back there. That is quite frankly epic. And just look at the size of the rear wing when you're underneath it, the painted Bugatti logo on the underside. That is actually quite something to behold, with those gigantic rear tyres and the complete exposed nature of the car to help with airflow literally through the bodywork. This is what happens when Bugatti can throw out the rulebook and take that power plant, that iconic power plant, and make it into the ultimate race car. And yet we are still waiting to hear it. So I think it is probably time then to have a listen as this gets started up. It's time to take a listen. There we go then, a first look at the Bugatti Bolide, Le Bolide, which means in French extreme track car, and I think that name is very appropriate when you take a look at this thing. There are so many details that I could spend hours poring over to go through the different construction techniques, the different parts of the aerodynamics, and everything that has gone into creating this car, which is truly mind-boggling. This is breathtaking. This is the definition, I think, of insane, and this is the actual full running car, not just a show car. Now at this stage, it's purely a one-off, but I imagine customers around the world are probably going to be calling Bugatti to see if they can make some of them. Picture the scene of these at a track event that Bugatti hosted with a limited number of them. That would be quite a sight to behold, and I imagine we might also be seeing some design cues here which could pave the way for future products we're going to see from Bugatti as well. All I know is that this is an absolute monster, and taking it in is something truly spectacular. So a huge thanks to Bugatti, and a huge congratulations as well for carrying through from their history to this in the present day, and who knows what for the future. For now though, thank you very much for watching. As always guys, I appreciate your support an awful lot, but that's it for this time, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!